Welcome to a new edition of the Famous Interviews with Joe Dimino. On this episode, we talk with healing mentor, therapist, and coach Laura Ann Gilpin. She has been in the healing arts for over a decade as a massage therapist, myofascial release therapist, Reiki Master Teacher, certified Soulful Coach, and healing mentor. She empowers empaths and sensitives, sending them on their own healing journey to embrace their sensitivity superpowers so they can thrive in life and relationships. We cover a lot in this conversation. Enjoy.
Hi, Joe. How are you?
I'm wonderful. How are you today?
Beautiful. Where are you calling from, Joe?
I'm in Kansas City, Missouri.
Oh, cool. I've never been, but I've heard great things.
Yeah, we're all kind of riding high after that game the other night, so it's kind of fun to be in a town. It's cool for the kids. Where are you located?
I'm in Asheville, North Carolina.
Oh, okay. It looks like you're doing a lot of wonderful things in your life, and before we get to that, I want to know how you did through COVID. The last couple of years has been something else on the planet. How did you get through it, and how does it change the way that not only you live your life, but the way that you conduct business?
Oh, that's a great question. COVID was especially triggering for me because of my own experience with chronic illness. So at the time, I was very much a high-risk person. So it was really, really, really isolating because I was so terrified that I was going with my autoimmune stuff that I was going to be someone that got COVID. Knock on wood, I've actually never gotten it so far. But so I think that one thing was it really reiterated for me what I already knew, which is that we can't heal in isolation. And that healing and transformation and growth requires community. And a message that I got again and again and again through that experience, and I think we all did, right? It was out there in the collective, was just the power and the importance of community. And so that did shift what I was really intentionally wanting to connect with and some of my own values within my life and within my business as well. And then shifting around some of the offerings that I had to reflect that truth as well.
Yeah, if there was anything we all really understood, and especially in this technologically driven world of ours, is that community and contact is very essential for us humans to survive and thrive.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So let's kind of get a handle on all of the things that make up who you are and what you do professionally. And I'm going to put you in front of a bunch of third graders at a career day at a grade school. And one of the kids is going to look up at you and say, "What do you do for a living?" How do you answer them?
I help people who feel lots of feelings and who are very sensitive learn how to use their feelings and their sensitivity to make them feel powerful and create a life that they love to live.
So when you were in the third grade, what was your dream growing up? What did you want to become?
Oh my gosh. I wanted to be either a dolphin trainer or a marine biologist.
Very cool. This is always the question that turns people into kids again. I always love it. The entirety of everyone's inflections and the way they answer it goes right back to just laughter or wonder. It just amazes me how quick it can happen.
I love that question.
So are you happy with how everything's turned out with who you are now?
Oh my goodness, yes. And what a circuitous, what a journey too. I think I never could have imagined that this is what happy would feel like and that it was actually truly possible for me.
So all of these things that we become in life start when we're young. Talk to me a little bit about your childhood and how these seeds were planted to become who you are.
It's so interesting. Becoming who we are, I think, in this world that we live in is really a process of unlayering and remembering who we were at the start. So I love that you asked who was I as a child, because I feel that so much of my own, healing and empowerment journey and, personal and professional development and becoming has been remembering who I was as a kid and coming back home within myself. I was such a sensitive kid. I talked to animals. I talked to birds. I had this vivid, wild, imaginative world in which I lived. I think in part due to being an only child that maybe I lived in that place longer than some others who had playmates. But, I loved writing stories, was very artistic, very creative, and just, fortunately grew up my childhood home in Maryland. We were right on state park land. And so I had state woods, a creek with a beaver dam and salamanders and streams and climbing trees and seeing deers and, running around outside. I felt very connected with nature. And, I still believe in fairies, but fairies played a very prominent role in my imagination and in my world at that time. And I just had so much love for everyone. I can just remember that so clearly, just feeling other people's feelings and anyone. And when I say anyone, I mean plant, animal, person, right? A creature of the earth. Any creature, anyone in pain. It hurt my heart, and I wanted to help. I've always been a helper and a healer ever since I was a little kid. And so, I think walking through life allowed me to really come back to that truth of who I am.
And I guess that's the thing about a professional life. Sometimes you find it, other times it finds you. I think being an empath is something that's just woven into who you are, but a healer and all these other elements that contribute to who you are these things that you just overwhelmingly you feel like you have to do that are a part of you? Did you pick it? How does that matrix work for you?
It's so interesting. I'm feeling into identity and the different layers of identity and the labels and things that we choose to wear and that we take off and exchange for other identities and articles of clothing. I think they're mutually informative. I've always felt, like I said, this call to help others. It didn't click for me for a while. So at first it was as an activist, I had a soft spot for the underdog, right? Whether that's, the environment that can't stand up for itself, animal rights, animals that can't stand up for themselves, civil rights, very much tied to civil justice, environmental justice, very closely connected with each other. And so for a while in my fiery 20s, that felt like the call, it's that's how I wanted to help. And it was through a series of experiences that I came to through that label and through that identity of that kind of help that I had little seeds planted along the way of, the right question and the right time. I don't believe in coincidence that led me to the realization, I'm a healer. That's what I need to be pursuing. And I have a story about living in a tent on a farm in Puerto Rico that actually led me to that epiphany. But it was after that I started studying the healing arts, and I got involved with massage therapy and then myofascial release therapy and energy work. And it was this kind of, like you said, this trickling through and this path then that I walked down that really opened me back up to spirituality and then to truly what I feel to be my soul's purpose work, which is what I'm doing now.
Who's been a hero for you in your life or a role model?
Well, I think a real life that I know hero and role model would be my grandmother, my Gammy, my mom's mom. She is absolutely a miracle. She's literally in medical textbooks as a miracle case of someone who had lupus and doesn't anymore, and that's, not a common occurrence. And just her heart and the example that she has shown and the family that she has created, I would say she's a personal hero for me within my own life. At the world at large, oh man, there's been so many. I think she's a hero to me because I think she honestly, so they're both women in the world of personal development and healing, would be Louise Hay, who has passed out of this realm and has left an enormous body of work to offer healing support for people, and Byron Katie and her work helping to create space for reflection and understanding deeper layers of self and what is true and what is not for yourself. I think her work is the ultimate invitation to inquiry. Those two women, they've had such a massive impact in my life. They were both there. They were both present for some of those pivotal moments for me. Their work was and really saved my life. So, I mean, if saving your life makes you a hero, then I would say they definitely fit the definition.
I would think so. What was the book for you growing up that really motivated you, that really kind of parted the curtains and made you either, fall in love with reading or see the world in a different way?
There are two. One was The Secret Garden, and one was The Hobbit. The Hobbit was one that, they were both actually stories that my parents would read to me at bedtime, that I then, as I was able to read for myself, I went back and read as a kid. But those two books, I think, The Hobbit, I feel like it's pretty widely known now, and just so much adventure and really showing how, and as kids, right, we really relate to the Hobbits because they're small, they're so easily overlooked, overseen, undervalued, and I think as kids that is often our experience in the world, and so I think that was just really empowering to see what is possible, and just adventures, and I've always been into fantasy, and like I said, I had a wild imagination, so trolls and elves and all of that was really exciting. And The Secret Garden, it will always hold a special place in my heart. And I think that, again, it's so interesting. I can see some of that narrative echo out into my own life and some of my own experiences with illness. But, there's some, a central character in the story of The Secret Garden who, because his father loved him so much, and the mother, she died way before her time because I think it was a cholera outbreak, and this kid, has been way talk about helicopter parenting. He's been super over parented to the point that he believes himself to always be sick, and he has sort of bought into the idea that he can't walk. And then this girl comes in who's also suffered a loss, who's just vivacious and highly spirited and imaginative and creative, and offers new possibilities for growth and healing and empowerment. And through her eyes and how she sees him in the world, he comes to believe that he can get well and he can have a life and he can walk. And I don't know, there's so many different stories within the story with that, The Secret Garden and allegory, and, it's a many layered thing, but that book, I think, it stands the test of time as well, and really opened my mind to think about things in different layered ways.
In your line of work with what you do and helping to heal people, you had mentioned that you had gone through childhood trauma, and I'm curious, from the human perspective on that, Do you ever get over that? Does anybody ever get healed from that? Or is that always a part of the fabric of who we are? And based on what we do to deal with that, it's either prevalent or not prevalent as we move forward in life?
That's a really good question. I always like to remind myself, as well as whoever I'm working with, that healing isn't linear, and healing is never a destination that we fully arrive at. It's more of a way of being, and it's a cultivated practice. And we are these multi-layered, multi-dimensional onions, and the ripple effect out from a traumatic event can color and inform different parts of yourself within mind, body, spirit, and the way that you show up within yourself and within the world. But the way in which it does that will shift and change and grow with you as you are healing through the different layers. So I don't know that I'm not sure that I can say with certainty I'm ever going to be 100% healed from some of the adverse experiences, traumatic experiences that I had in my childhood. But I do know that some of them I've healed to a degree with which I can look back on it without being emotionally triggered, and that I can utilize that experience in a way that not only helps myself, but helps others work through their own stuff, and actually has changed my perspective and helped me love myself to a degree that I didn't really know was possible at other stages along the healing journey, if that makes sense.
Yes, certainly does. So at the end of the proverbial day, how do you quantify a good day? How do you look back and say that day was great?
Well, I am an empath, so for me, a lot of it comes back to feeling. And I think for a lot of us it does. And it's always inviting people to really look at how they want to feel in their life. Because when we talk about what it is we desire, and it can be, I desire the new job, or I desire financial security, or I desire that new Airstream so I can go live that RV life on the road, or, whatever it is, just to look at whatever it is you say you want. And then ask yourself, when I get this, how will I feel? Because really, that's what you're chasing, is that feeling. And so if we can get really clear on the feeling that we desire and start to intentionally incorporate things, practices, rituals, people, activities into our daily life that evokes that feeling, then we feel contented and more whole, while we are maybe deciding that, yes, I do want that new Airstream so I can feel freedom and liberation and excitement and adventure. But if I can look at how to incorporate freedom, liberation, excitement, and adventure into a week for myself, then that's going to be a great week. So the answer will be different for everyone depending on what their core values are and what it is they really want to feel within themselves and within their life. So for me, a great day is if I can look back on the day and feel as if I showed up with the intentions that I set for myself. So every morning I do morning align time, and there's, of course I have goals in a more strategic sense, but intentions are different. And so if I can look back and really feel like I showed up how I wanted to that day, and check in with myself and see how I'm feeling, and that feels in alignment with how I want to feel, well, that's a great day in my book. I think that's a winner for sure.
What's been one of the best fan letters, client responses you've ever gotten in your life that you remember?
Usually crying is involved. I mean, these days it's like usually a video call. Very often will happen on the last call with the client. I think when someone tells me, you know, I didn't know this was possible, that's something I relate to so much. To have that kind of reflected back to me in the container and the space and the transformative work that we've done together and the time that we've had, I think that's one of the highest compliments, right? It's like, I didn't know that this transformation was possible, or this is unbelievable, right? It's like, it feels almost like this can't be real. And that's been a common thread that I've noticed from a few.
So let's say you have a dream tonight. You run into your 20-year-old version of yourself, and you could give that version of you a piece of advice based on the life you've led, the wisdom you've gained, the things that you've experienced. What would you tell your young version?
20-year-old me, oh my goodness. When you ask that question, I see her, I just have so much love. I just want to give her a big hug. So I would probably hug her, I think is the first action that would happen. You don't need to prove your worth. You are already more than enough. Yeah.
So everyone out there has a perception of you, your family, your friends, your clients, but ultimately you're the one in control of your life. You ultimately have a perception of you. Who do you think you are?
I'm a joyful dancer, a belly laugher, a furry baby lover. I have 2 dogs and 2 cats, and I do an animal lover. I love animals. A tree hugger, a loving daughter, a light bearer is what's coming to mind in terms of how I show up in community, but within my work as well. A love seeker and a love maker.
You know, as we kind of emerge out of this pandemic, this global event that, you know, most people that went through the one before probably aren't around. So this is kind of a fresh event for all of us to live through and to come out of. What do you see the aftermath, say, 5 years from now? Do you see a level of enlightenment, a new dawn of things happening in a way that we've never seen before? What's kind of your beat on how humanity is going to take this bubble that we've lived through for the last couple of years and move forward with it?
That's a great question. The word resonance comes to mind because, yes, for humanity, there is collective consciousness, there's collective energy, and we are also individual facets of that collective. And so as you saw within 2020 and in the ripple effects after, people responded and reacted in different ways. And I think that has to do with resonance. That has to do with where you are mentally, emotionally, physically, energetically, spiritually, what you've already experienced, what you've already gone through, and what the framework of your own core values and beliefs actually are. That's the lens through which you perceive yourself in the world, and that lens is going to influence what it is you are co-creating within your life and within your work and within your family and within your community and on moving forward. So I think, it's for those of us who believe that life is happening for us, our view of the pandemic is going to be very different from somebody who, believes that life is a series of unfortunate events, for example, right? Or that a series of tests that you have to overcome. Those are just a couple of perspectives. And so I think in the way the answer to that question is going to look different depending on the circles in which you relate and the frequency at which you resonate and the way you perceive yourself and the world and how you show up. So I think there's a huge opportunity, as you say, for enlightenment. I think there's a huge light being shone on the systems and the ways of showing up in the world that no longer serve us. So if we look at the human collective as an organism in a way that we could look at our mind, body, spirit as an organism, dis-ease and discomfort, they're just information. It's showing up to say, there's something out of balance here. We need to shine a light on this. Please look at me. Right? That's what those things are coming up to tell us within our own mind, body, spirit. And it's the same within the organism that is humanity on Earth. And so there is an incredible opportunity for healing and for growth and for transformation. I think that it will be interesting to see the different pockets of resonance and frequency in different circles and communities, and how those iterate into action and how those integrate into the actual experience of our systems and how we relate to one another. So huge opportunities ahead. And I am glued to not only just witnessing and observing the unfolding, but then actively participating within my own little pockets of influence, just to show up and shine my own light to influence the greater collective as well.
So Laura Ann, if anyone out there wants to learn more about you, your services, anything related to your world, where's the best place for them to go?
My website, sensitivecollective.com. I have a really beautiful free resource there that I just think everybody can use, but especially my empaths and sensitive soul sisters and brothers out there. It's really essential, foundational, supportive practices, and the Empath's Guide to Thrive is exactly what it sounds like, and it's a great free resource you can find on my website, sensitivecollective.com. I'm also on Instagram at sensitive.collective, and I've been loving the funny reels, but I also show up and do a live question answer session every Tuesday as a free resource, and regularly check my messages on there, and so that's a great way to reach me if you have any questions.
Wonderful. Laura Ann, thank you for opening up. Thank you for your time. Good luck with everything. Have a great 2023.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Joe. Really appreciate it. It's been a pleasure. Thank you for having me on. I very much enjoyed our conversation. Thanks for reconnecting me some with my inner child. It's always fun to do that, for sure.
Thanks for tuning in to another famous interview with Joe Dimino, where we cover the world of art, literature, business, spirituality, music, and more from around the globe. If you want to hear more interviews, visit the Famous Interviews with Joe Dimino channel on YouTube. You can also find us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Thanks again for listening, and until next time.